So today we have a special guest, someone I had on the radio show a few years ago, almost 3 years ago now, Monica Paulus, who joins us from Australia. She was in Papua New Guinea when we first spoke, and we had a fascinating discussion about the situation that she had encountered in her homeland there. So thank you for joining me, Monica.
Thank you.
So can we talk a little bit about your past and the experiences that you saw in Papua New Guinea? I first saw about your story by reading an article that I read,
Yes.
and then I reached out to you.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your story in Papua New Guinea. What was going on there? You were having people trying to persecute you and attack you, right?
Yes. I was working as a voluntarily as a human rights defender, trying to defend women and children accused of sorcery. And I was also being accused by my own family of being a sorcerer. So this is how I started working on this issue.
Yes. And how long had that accusation of being a sorcerer, how long had they been using that against you? Just a few years or many, many years? How did that happen?
Uh, in Papua New Guinea, when someone is accused of sorcery, it's a lifetime tag that they gives you, and the threat stays with you forever, and the name also stays with you because the belief that they have is so ingrained that it passes on. So once if someone has been accused, you you will never get rid of that name tag.
Wow. And so how long had when I when I had talked to you, you had been accused. So was it a few years that you had had that accusation started, or had it been a decade? How long had you been living with that accusation in the community?
Mm, I've lived with it for more than 20 years.
Wow.
Since my father died, I was accused of his death, and that was more than 20 years ago. So I lived with it all the time. And it also passes on to my children and and so on. Yeah.
Do you have family members in Papua New Guinea that still live with that accusation, or have they left since then?
Uh, I have three children who are still living in Papua New Guinea, and they still live with that accusation.
Wow. Is it has it are they safe, or do they have to hide, or how does the situation there?
Uh, they they are not safe. I could say when someone is accused of sorcery in
Right.
Papua New Guinea, there is no way like you feel you're safe, but you just live as the day comes because with someone, if there is a death in the family or if anything negative happens, then automatically they see you as the bad person.
Right. Right. And so what how did that accusation start? You said they blamed you for your father's death. What was the basis for blaming you for your own father's death? Why would they say that?
My brother, the younger brother after me, blamed me because I bought a house and I gave it to my father. And when my father got attack and he collapsed, I already was living there too with the family after I broke up with my marriage. So it was just very clear that once my father died, I would have got the house to myself. So my brother knew about that and he just accused me. Yeah.
Wow. And so when I met you, you said that you had people trying to get into the house in some form. You were trying to hide women from being accused of sorcery, and you had someone trying to get into the house even. I remember that years ago.
Uh, that's when I helped other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I helped a young girl at the age of 12 when she was accused. And then when I helped her, repatriated her to a girl center, the people in that area, the man that accused him was a local businessman. So he had he had some powers to come around, and he came to my house. There were other boys and all this. They came and ransacked the house and destroyed everything in the house that I moved to build and stayed here.
Wow.
So that was like 5 years after my father's death, and then I moved to settle in another place. That's what happened.
Yeah, I see. And so that was a 12-year-old child. I think how could a child be accused of sorcery? Is that common, or is it usually adults that they accuse?
It's like in the past, it used to be on the adult, but more recently, they've started to accuse children. Yeah.
And it's mostly women who are accused of sorcery, right?
Yes, but nowadays it's also men.
Now when we spoke, I had said you need to get out of that country, and you ended up leaving the country because you needed to take care of your safety. Has it gotten worse since we last spoke or about this 3 years ago on the radio?
Yes, it got worse. Like now, you're looking at COVID-19, and in this period now, like the COVID is worse in the country itself, and people are dying of COVID, but they're also relating it to sorcery, and they're also killing a lot of women that I could read and hear from my other colleagues also.
Hmm. So it's getting worse because of COVID affecting the island, huh?
Now it's getting worse because of the COVID too.
Wow. So when you hear from folks back in Papua New Guinea, what are they saying? Are they saying is sorcery and the attacks, is that a major part of their life, or is it very rare that these things occur? Very, very uncommon.
It's become very common, and I just went on also like on live with the government trying to address this issue, and they're trying to come up with a 5-year plan, and they were trying to put two things together, work on this, but it took them so long to work on this, and I don't know, like if there's going to be any change to that.
Yeah. And and do you see the problem stemming from a true belief in the uh, power of witchcraft, or is it a cynical excuse that they don't really believe, but they just use it as an excuse to hurt people they don't like?
I think they're using it just an excuse with the people that they don't like, and also they're just trying to use it to take other people's property. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do the folks that get uh, uh, drawn into the witch hunts, do people who go along with the crowd, do they believe it's real, that there's real sorcery, or do they think, oh, there's no real sorcery here, we're just trying to take this person's property, we'll just use this as excuse?
I think they, I really think that they also don't see the real evidence of seeing a sorcery, a sorcerer, or what, but they just go with the flow as the people move along to do the
They,
attack.
they just go along with whatever everybody else is saying, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I see. And and is this related to a particular religious practice, or does it relate to all kinds of religion in the Papua New Guinea?
I, I think it's just a belief that is so ingrained in them that it just passes on from generation to generation.
Right. And how do they determine who? Again, do they? What is their explanation for how someone can be a sorcerer? I saw a video where they were saying if a woman yawns, if she yawns, they'll say that she was hiding a spirit coming out of her mouth or going something like that. That little things like that they can use as an excuse, right?
Yes, they can use little things like that. They could also find if there is a death, and if the women sit down and if they get a stick and start poking the soil,
Huh.
or you just move. do some sort of actions. You don't know. You just do it because you have to do it. Like you have to sweat your head or things like this, and they still accuse you. You know, they always find an excuse to that. Yeah.
Right. And what is the punishment? What do they end up doing to folks that they catch and they accuse of sorcery? Do they have a trial? Do they have a trial, or do they just go to a punishment?
There is no trial. They start accusing, and they bring the woman together to a community, and sometimes they just go in the night and they just do an aunt. So like they just collect all the women, put them in one place, and then they just question them. And every answer that a person that you gives is like they always have an answer to it. So like whatever you say will never save you.
Wow.
So what they do to them is like they burn them, they kill them, they tie them and throw them in the rivers. They do so many nasty things to women. They chop their fingers.
Wow. Is the punishment always death, or do they sometimes have something less than death?
Sometimes like they just torture you until like you sometimes they just punish you.
Right.
And they torture you like it's really then the punishments that they give you is really inhuman and not acceptable in the community also.
Right. Is there less punishment if you admit that you were guilty of whatever they're accusing you of, or is it more punishment if you admit guilt?
Even if you say you are not a sorcerer, they will still accuse you and torture you until you just have to admit. Like you don't want to say yes to it, but you just have to say yes, you were.
Yes.
Or if you say no and you still say no, they will continue to punish you. Yeah.
And is the local police doing anything to stop these witch burnings, where they burn people and drown them?
When I was working there, like with the police, we have some good policemen and women that we try to work together. But the thing is, you have to pay the police to go and do the work.
Yeah. It's expensive, huh?
It's expensive. You have to give them money. You have to pay for the fuel, police car fuel, and all this stuff before they move and do the work.
Yeah. What do you think is a way to avoid? How do we? What would, for folks who are interested in this topic and they want to see the witch burnings stop? What would be the way to stop these witch burnings in your imagination, in your opinion? Having lived through being almost attacked yourself and saving women from being attacked, and being in that environment, you said you live with that accusation for 2 decades. What would you say is the things that need to happen to stop the witch burning for good?
For me, I think poverty in the country is also one of the contributing factor towards that continuous witch hunt.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is like we don't have justice.
Yeah.
The police are not doing the government is not doing their work. If there was justice, I think the people will know that they will be held accountable for what they've done to innocent women and children, and they would stop also. But there is no justice, so that will continue. Yeah.
How about the impact of Christianity? Does that have an effect into stopping people believing in sorcery, or does that not really affect in that community?
With Christianity, there are two things about Christianity. One is the mainline churches, like the Catholic, the Lutheran,
Uh-huh.
they try to preach the gospel telling people that accusing and killing people is wrong,
Right.
about about accusing them of sorcery. And the other churches, especially the Pentecostal churches, they say the evil spirit is real. So in a way, the way they preach the gospel also try to put some more flame on the issue.
Huh. Interesting.
So when you look at it, for me, when I looked at it, it's like they're adding more fuel to what we're trying to stop.
Huh. Interesting. So
Mm.
so the mainline denominations, they try to help the people see that there's no basis to accuse people of having spirits. But you
Yes,
said that
yes,
but,
yes,
but some of the other denominations, they're a little bit more going along with believing that there's something to the accusation that's being leveled against the person, right?
yes.
Do they? But they don't. They, I guess, those other denominations wouldn't, you know, condone the witch burning, though, right? Or would, or do they just kind of? They don't. How
No,
do they?
it's just the way they preach. Like they said, all the witches are real, and they're all this stuff. But like to be part of like banning and all this, they don't. But when you preach something and when you give out a message, it's what you say the people take on.
Right, right.
Mm.
So they take enough from the message to justify continuing the behavior.
Yes.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting to see the differences in those different sects of Christianity. So
Mm.
when you look at the role of witches in the community that you came from, are they always a negative role, or do they also have a positive role? Do they switch from a positive role to a negative role, or are they always negative in the community?
Uh, can you just clarify that part of
Well,
the
like
question?
for example, some, communities, they might say, we turn to the witch to solve problems like a plague or a disease or a famine. They will do something to provide blessing. They can have powers to bring blessing back to the community. And then sometimes they bring curses. Is that the role of the witch, or is the witch always a negative force in the community from the perspective of the people who believe in this?
Like Papua New Guinea is diverse in its culture.
Right.
So in many parts of other parts of Papua New Guinea, they have spirits that they look up on for blessings and for protection, and they respect the spirit, the people. Yeah,
I see.
but in some parts, like especially in the highlands, no, they accuse women and children. Yeah.
Right. So it's always negative. They don't.
Yes.
I see. So when so you say poverty is a role that is contributing to it. I've heard you in the past, though, tell me also that when people get a lot of money, or if they work in a, more industrial or business like environment, that can incite the word. Is it jealous? Jelas? Jealous? Is that right?
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that word mean?
Mm, you mean the pastor or you mean the people?
Or just people like I remember you telling me in the past that another factor that contributes to people being accused of witchcraft is that people get jealous of them, like you said, your home, your property, they
Yes.
wanted your home.
Yes.
But sometimes it could just be because they work in a nice job and they're getting benefits and they have more
Yes.
modern
Yes.
comforts and so forth, and they're jealous, right?
Yes. Yeah, sometimes it's like yeah, like you said, like in some circumstances where when people are well educated, the family and all this, and if everyone is working, then the community, they're jealous of the family, and
Right.
they could accuse them. If there is a death within their family, the community, the youth gets up and accuse the family for that. Yeah. Or if someone, like, for example, there was a case where the husband was a mining engineer and he was working, and when he died, they knew the wife was gonna take with the children, were gonna inherit the business and the money and all the assigned things that they have. So the brothers teamed up and accused the wife and the children, and they tortured them, and that they left.
Wow. The family left after they were tortured?
Yes.
Wow. Where did they go? To another another island, or?
They went. Oh, they went with the mother to the mother's place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some places in Papua New Guinea where people are safe from the sorcery or accusations, right?
Yes, but now we could see like it's spreading all over Papua New Guinea, because there's been intermarriages, and people see what has happened in other provinces, that there is no justice for that, so they took that on board also. So now we have cases in all over Papua New Guinea related to sorcery accusations and killings.
Wow. And do you continue to stay in touch with women who are struggling? Are you still working and coordinating work over
Yes,
there?
I am working with them. I'm trying my best to help them, like trying to tell them like where to go and what to do and get the best services that they have. But it's not that easy as when I was back in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you can you tell some stories? Can you share some people's stories that of people that you've worked with or that you know about that have struggled with this problem? Some of the women and children.
Yes. Before I came here, there was a family that I repatriated. I said about 3 families of 13 members, 3 different families,
Uh-huh.
and brought them with the help of I think Polish. There was a Polish organization that helped, and we built their homes, bought the land in Port Moresby, and resettled them there. So they are happily living there in Port Moresby.
Well, that's great. And that's a safe place where that accusation is not continuing.
Not really.
Yeah.
Like, they still go with this stigma and discrimination, but it's just like it's better off coming out from where they used to, because then to another place. But there's nowhere like you could hide what you you were threatened, and like you were accused to come to a new place and put up these sort of things, because the story goes around so people know. But the good thing is, like, they came from different villages, and came together to live in that very big place. The block itself, it's like, in a way, they were trying to protect each other so they could live as one big community, so they could protect themselves.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense. Did you ever have a situation where you saved someone in the middle of them being persecuted in real time, where the crowd had formed and you were able to step in and save someone's life? Or do you
Yes,
don't?
yes, I have. Like, with the 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Yes, she was already like locked in the house, and they were already questioning her. And I have to step in to talk with the the boys and the men there to release her, or I bring in the police. And like they said, we will not release her. And I told them, if you don't, I'm gonna call the police. And I was like given a lot of the names. Like they said, oh, she was accused, and now she's trying to help a kind, and and she doesn't have a husband. The husband divorced her, and they have so many things that they could say about me.
Yeah.
But this didn't stop me because I really wanted to save the small girl. And I planned with other boys, and I told them they couldn't let go of the girl. And I knew that if I bring in the police, it could turn the situation hard. So I arranged with the other boys and gave them some money so they could go in the night and bring the girl out. And I'll arrange the car, put her on a car, and then transport her to my home in another place, where my children used to live. Kept her there for a week, and then asked Amnesty International to come in and repatriated her to another province altogether. Yeah.
Wow. So she's doing okay
Together now.
last time you heard?
I just heard about her about 3 weeks ago. They were trying to bring her back, and they were looking for someone in Papua New Guinea, in that province, to really go and talk to the family and the village so they could bring that girl back. And yeah.
So they're not done. They're still trying to get her, huh?
I think that the institution that she was there, I think they wanted to take her back to the village, but I don't know. I tried to talk to them about that, but it was from the community development. So yeah, they didn't tell me why they were sending her back here.
If they take her back to that village, is that a surefire, problem? She's going to be in physical danger, or no?
She will be. She will be. Yeah.
So they don't forget their accusations. They don't let time. It doesn't heal the accusation.
Time doesn't, because anytime anything happens, they're still gonna be accused of. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the girl were to come back, if something bad happens in the village, they'll say she did it, right?
Yes, they will.
Wow. So it's like a scapegoat.
Yes.
What do they do once they've completed? If they end up killing someone, what do they do after that? What do they, if they kill a person they've accused of being a witch, what do they do? Is that it? Do they just celebrate? Do they have a meal? What do they do?
I mean, that's it. Like, they think they've achieved what they've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, they feel satisfied.
Yeah. And
but if they know that the police is aftering them, or if they know that there was going to be like an investigation into this case, that's where like they feel more scared.
Right.
But if there's nothing about them, that they feel it's okay.
And you have to wonder, how do they numb their conscience? When you do horrible things to people, like burning them alive, that's a horrible thing. I mean, I think people have a hard time wrapping their mind around how can people do something so cruel and not be scarred from it, to not feel horrible about what they've done.
That's the thing. Like, people don't feel, I don't know whether they have this remorse, so they can't even feel sorry for other people. Or I think sometimes, like, they must have lived with that trauma, that they've done these terrible things.
Yeah. So
okay.
So how they don't have any remorse. They don't feel bad. Have you ever talked to somebody who participated in a witch burning or a burning like that, and they say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know what I was thinking. Or have you ever talked to anybody like that?
Yeah, I did talk to a couple of them. And they're like, sometimes, like, at the moment they're with you, they'd say that they're sorry for what they've done, and they said they will say all these positive things, and they feel that what they did was wrong. But if there is an accusation in the village, they automatically take part in it. Yeah.
Wow. They just almost,
But
it's like
yeah,
automatic. They just go along with what the crowd's doing, huh?
yes, they just go with the crowd. I remember there was an incident where it just happened in my village, and then like they were going to they were going to throw this 5 women into the river, and I was in another province at the time when I got a call from the daughter of the mother that they were going to throw into the river. In the river, they tied all the women together and they were dragging them to the river to drown them because the son died, and he had I think he had some problems with his lungs because he was taking homebrew.
Huh.
But then they accused the mother for that, and then the other women who were part of the family, and they were trying to bring them to the river and drown them.
Yeah.
And the daughter called me and told me that, oh no, they were doing this. And I told the daughter, like, I'm gonna call the police to come in, but what you have to do is, there is no evidence of accusing someone of sorcery. Anyone could be accused. It's just by pointing a finger and accusing someone.
Right.
So I told the daughter, like, tell your mom to look around, and then among the men that are accusing them and the young boys, I said, point to the leader of the team and tell him that he is also a sorcerer.
Huh.
It was also part of the activity that has happened because they've already accused the women. Whether they say they didn't do it, they will still be accused.
Huh.
So, as they were dragging the women down to the river to be drowned in the night, the mother of the girl turned around and then she told the team leader, the men that were dragging them down, and told him, like, hey, you were part of the team when we were discussing this. And all the men turned around and they looked at him and they said, oh, so you are also one of them,
Wow.
So they brought all the women back into the village, and then they accused the leader of their own team. So it is a clear thing, like they will just accuse you without seeing any evidence of you being a witch or you practicing witch. It's just by throwing words or just picking you from the crowd and saying you've done that. So this is what has happened to this young man.
What happened
And
to what happened to them? Were they drowned or did they escape?
no, in the middle of the process of going to the river to drown them, when the woman said this, the man turned around and brought all the women back, and they accused their own leader again.
What happened to him? Did he get in trouble?
Yes, he did.
What they do
With
to
his
him?
wife and with his wife and with his family again. And he was one of them, and with the wife and the family that later I helped to repatriate into Port Moresby because he couldn't settle. Yeah, because he couldn't settle in the village.
So you ended up helping him.
Yeah, because I wanted him to learn the lesson, and others also, because you could accuse others, but if they point their fingers at you and if they say you are part of the team, there is no way you would also escape.
Huh. That's interesting. So, so if you, so it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have. It can be anybody that the crowd
It could be
believes.
anybody. Yeah, it could be anybody.
So how come? Like, how do you prevent? Like, for example, if kids know that, how do they? If you want to have an unruly child and they says, "I'm mad at my mom. Mom, you're a sorcerer," or "Hey, my dad didn't let me have that candy. Dad, you're a sorcerer." I mean, is that easy, or do they not listen to children starting it? It has to be like a, like how come that's not used for everything if that's that easy to start it?
Yeah. Sometimes you just say it, you just think that you're angry at them and you just throw words without thinking that it will affect them in the long run.
Right.
But other people, when they listen to what you said, they take it on board.
Wow. They
So
believe it.
when something negative happens, they will follow from the word that you've thrown. They will attack them. Yeah.
Wow. This is something. Is this a new thing that the community has been doing, or is this something that goes back hundreds of years or thousands of years? What do you think here? Is this something a new development? I mean, I'm just my. I mean, from your
For me,
research.
I could say like we've heard of stories, but when I was a child, but it wasn't that serious and that we used to hear. I mean, see. But nowadays, it's getting even more worse.
So why do you think it's getting worse in recent years? Like, is it because there's changes happening in the community?
The changes happening in the community because of jealousy, because of unemployment, all these things.
Yeah.
So it just triggers people finding things to do. So they started doing all this stuff. Yeah.
What about? Is there any connection to this in the cargo religions where people believe in the cargo stories? Have you heard about talked about that or looked into that?
I haven't heard about anything about this, but they do hear stories of the cargo thing,
Yeah,
but they've never related that to the yeah.
I see. So that's not connected to this belief in sorcery.
It's not connected to that.
Yes. So now that you're living in Australia, correct?
Yes.
Are you currently in lockdown, or how is that working for you?
I am not in lockdown. I'm in Queensland, so Queensland is not locked down. So that was good.
Yeah. So what do you do now with how's life going for you? What do you do now? How's life going?
Uh, I just had problems with my two knees. I couldn't work, but I'm living on Centrelink and like it's getting good. It's good for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I could find work then I could work also. So that was okay. But like for me, like there are times like I sit back and I think like, oh, like I feel that it's not fair. Like I'm greedy. Why didn't have my children with me? And then like I know of my colleagues who were still on the ground working on these issues and.
So your kids are back home in Papua New Guinea, right? Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to bring them down when this COVID thing happened, and I cannot now because there's to go through a lot of process of coming and yeah.
Yeah. So what are your goals now for the future? What do you want to do now that you're in this new environment in Australia? Is this something you can stay permanently, or is it just a temporary?
Uh I got my permanent residence in Australia. I want to live here because like I am just tired of this continuously moving around, being
Yeah.
internally displaced related to this issue. I want to live here.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, even in Australia, the Papua New Guineans, they also believe in this thing. And this is really bad.
Right.
Mm.
What do you see any do you see any parallels with the things that you saw in Papua New Guinea and Australia in a different way in terms of accusations and singling people
Oh,
out and jealousy and things like that? Do you see little shadows of that in your where you're at now?
yes, we in Papua New Guinea, like, I mean, in Australia, when I moved into this small community where a lot of people from the same provinces that we live together,
Yeah.
they do talk about these things. And there was an incident about myself. We were sharing houses, and then like I I got some peanuts and then I left it on the table. And then the landlord of the house came along and she ate the peanuts. And then after a day, she started throwing out.
Uh-huh.
And she called me and she said, what have you done to the peanuts? You've done sorcery to me. And I was shocked when I heard that. And then I just said, oh, I can't live in this house with you if you're thinking negative about me. I said, I have to go. I said, food poisoning can be anything, but if you think that about me, it's not nice.
Right.
And it's not only me, but it happened to others also who live in the same community. And I really, I really wanted, people to really see, like, even if we come out of the provinces, but we out of the country, but the belief is there, it's ingrained, and they continue to, have that on other people. And the other thing that I've seen is like, if there is death in the villages, and then quickly they said, oh, they live in Australia, but quickly they said, oh, it must be sorcery,
Wow.
Think about sorcery now. There must be this going on. And I'm thinking, like, can we, like, have some positive thoughts about this and, try to do away with sorcery and help our people, or we're gonna continue to add flame to what's happening?
Yeah.
So
What about
it
when
is
you
really,
what about when you explain the science behind, a disease that caused the death? They don't care? They don't believe it? Or
they don't care about it. Even they still think that there has to be some contribution with the sorcery thing.
huh.
And it's really, really, really hard. The educated people and the people that moved out of Papua New Guinea to live in Australia, but if they could still believe in that, that is really, really bad.
Interesting. Yeah. So has COVID-19 brought out accusations of sorcery in Australia or no?
Nah.
No.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about the community response to the pandemic in
In
Australia?
Papua New Guinea,
All right, no, in Australia where you're at. Do you
I think that people, Australia, I think in Australia, like, they're responding very well to that. It's only very few people like those that breaks the rules and to lock down, and they go out and about to do other things.
yeah.
But I think in Australia they're doing very well
So what would
trying
you
to cope with.
so what would you say for people who are wanting to learn more about this topic of sorcery in Papua New Guinea and how they can try to help uh, bring awareness to this subject to see if we can end the witch burnings? Because I think it's a lot of people don't know this is happening, and when they do, they're very shocked and confused as to how
Yeah,
this could be happening.
I think a lot of people think that when you talk about witch burning or sorcery hunt, witch hunt, they think, like, if they don't actually see the picture of it, they think that it's just one of the stories.
Right.
But when you actually go in deep into listening to stories and seeing the documentaries and all this, it really it really touches you, and you really think that you should help in this area. And for me, I think there are women up there, the human rights defenders and the groups up there are still working on this issue, and they needed, help from the government and all this to help them. And with the, I also think, like, for the outside countries to look into that is also to really push the government of Papua New Guinea to really change the laws and to really work around this issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
I think we also have to understand that that spirit of accusation can happen in our own communities. It's not just Papua New Guinea. It may not look like a witch burning in our cities, but in America or whatever, but it doesn't mean that same spirit of crowd accusation that can ruin people's lives. Maybe they lose their job, they lose their career, they lose their reputation. Maybe they're falsely accused of a crime and they don't get burned, but they go to prison. That kind of accusation spirit is alive and well in all kinds of countries. Let's not just leave it only at Papua New Guinea. But of course, this one is a particularly horrible version of it because of the gruesome murders that are happening.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Monica. It's always great talking with you. I really thank you for spending this time with me.
No worries. Thank you, David, for putting me on.
All right. Well, we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.